The Neo-Catechumenal Way is a missionary initiative in the Catholic Church. The Way began prior to 1962 as a community of gypsies and marginalised poor who gathered around Kiko Arguello, who had come to live among them with his Bible and guitar in the shanty town of Palomares Altas in Vallecas, Madrid. A young Spanish missionary named Carmen Hernandez heard about Kiko and this community, so she went to see for herself. Together, they are the founders of the Neo-Catechumenal Way. Today, the Way is in over 100 countries. It has more than 100 seminaries and some 40,000 communities in more than 6,000 parishes.
Kiko Arguello, the founder of the Catechumenal Way, had the idea that we should send people out 2 by 2, just like in Matthew's Gospel, without money, without haversack, without phone, without anything, and go out there in poverty, to go out as the little ones all around the world. This miracle of Christ in us reaching out to people was an extraordinary moment. I hope it helps you in your life, in your faith journey. So let us hear what we have to say. Good evening, everyone. Now we're going to meet Steve. This guy has an incredible experience of how God worked with him when he did the 2 by 2 and how he was able to reach out to people in a really incredible way. He's got an interesting story. Let's see what Steve's got to say. So, we'd like to welcome Steve. Steve was one of the brothers who did this 2 by 2 mission with us to go anywhere, any place. So Steve, welcome.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a father of 3.
Uh-huh.
My wife and I have been married for 7 years.
Yeah.
I think I got that right. Youngest is 9 months.
Uh-huh.
And then a 3 and then a 5-year-old.
Right, so your wife couldn't come on the 2 by 2 because she was feeding the younger one, yeah?
No, that's right. Yeah,
so you leave your breastfeeding wife and the little kids alone to go out on this adventure without money, without anything.
It's such a harsh climate of Australia, yeah.
yeah. So you've gone and done this mission with the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so tell us, who was your partner?
Father Antonio Scala. He's the Vice Rector of the Redemptorist Mater.
Yeah, in Perth, yeah, okay. Yeah, and where were you sent?
We were sent to Sydney. We literally could walk to our first parish, so we didn't travel anywhere from the set.
Didn't have to worry about drop-off, pick-ups and all the rest.
We walked back at the end.
You walked back at the end, all right,
Yeah.
So straight into it.
Yeah.
So, tell me, how was the experience?
It was great. Like it was something that was daunting at first. The thought of it. My family have always gone camping in very rustic areas, so the thought of sleeping out wasn't the big issue. The big issue was the people for me. A bit of a fear there, I guess, but the excitement overrode it, really, that I was excited about this idea of living, these 9 days with God without the worries of work. Yeah.
Just in the precariousness there and seeing how things would unfold and what the Lord would lead you. So where did the Lord lead you? Who did he put in front of you? What happened?
We met many people. Father Antonio had this brilliant idea at the start of a list of people that we met. And so it didn't matter whether they were nice to us or they didn't want to see us or anything.
Yeah.
This list reminded us as we went along, and it grew and grew.
Yeah, so you compiled the list as you went?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you didn't know people you were visiting, you just compiled as you went.
Yeah. We had our parishes to visit, same as everyone. But the benefit of going on foot was really that we were meeting people everywhere.
Yeah.
We had met a number of people door knocking, just going to houses around the parish while we waited for the priest to return, and really there were a lot of people there. This Kiwi family welcomed us in, gave us a cup of hot chocolate, and we had a really good experience with them.
Yep.
Speaking about their lives, it was good for me meeting all these people, not just my judgments against people, but really the poverty that exists in the world, that even in a country where there really isn't much poverty, people are still suffering. They still suffer from the same death that not knowing Christ is.
Yeah.
And really on this journey that we had and these people that we met, we were looking for this hospital and we kept following the signs until we didn't find any more. And we were perhaps a bit lost. And so we came to this intersection and he wanted to go left, I wanted to go right. And so we found a plastic bottle and we spun it.
You spin the bottle like this to see which way to go, left or right.
That was how most of our tiebreakers were ended. So we...
And you went that way?
Yeah. We followed the street and it wasn't going anywhere near main roads or hospitals. And we walked for another, it was about midnight or maybe 12:30 at this point.
Yeah.
And it was cold and winter in Sydney for a Queenslander. So we really ended up a bit despairing, thinking that there was not going to be anywhere for us. We'd just walk all night. Yeah. And this car pulled up next to us and a woman with a hijab got out. And we were standing there, we were probably a little bit overtired and looked suspect. So we turned and we walked back the way we were going. And the young man pulled up in the car next to us and offered us a lift. Said, "Where are you going?" And this was another example of just how many people that we met, just by random chance. If we had have had a bus ticket, we would never have met this man. So he drove us to the hospital, we stayed in the chapel. The next day we walked, because we didn't have hospitality, we didn't eat that day, and the next night we got to the parish and there was no room for us available there. Yeah. But the priest said...
No room at the inn.
No room at the inn. And the priest offered the perpetual adoration that they had in the church.
Oh yeah.
And it was a bit of a, it's not a disappointment I guess, it was a little bit disheartening for us at that point because we still hadn't really slept the night before or eaten anything.
You hadn't eaten for how many days now?
This was the second day, I guess.
Second day,
yeah.
Okay.
And then we went into this, where the Blessed Sacrament was, and we spent the night there and we pulled out the list of all the people that we had. And so we started praying the rosary and dedicated a decade to each of these people, and it was beautiful because we were in this meditation and this prayer, this communication with Jesus, with Mary, and really looking at these people with respect to myself and seeing the people that have struggled a lot, that really I have nothing to complain about with the little worries that I have. A lot of people were from broken marriages or drug addictions, or there was some great suffering that I saw in them. And really this night in adoration was the highlight. Even though I was really disappointed that there was no food, that I didn't struggle staying awake. Yeah. And that's probably the first time in my life that's occurred. Yeah. It was beautiful.
So you stayed up all night praying, so sleeping wasn't the problem. You didn't find accommodation, you were there with the Lord.
Yeah, He provided. God had His hand on us throughout this whole journey, especially at the times where we thought we should have been somewhere else.
Yeah. So there were any particular moments where you really felt the Lord pass when you spoke to someone?
Yeah, so one of the parishes that we went to, it was a very old parish, and we got there on a Thursday. It was Friday, and it was packed. Mm-hmm. It was absolutely packed for the evening mass. Yeah. And we thought it was a little bit strange, maybe something special was going on there. Yeah. And after the mass had finished, there were people coming and going from the church, and we were sitting outside waiting for the parish priest so that we could talk to him. Yeah. And people young, old, pulled up on their cars, went in, half an hour later they left. And this happened, throughout the whole afternoon, throughout the evening. Yeah. It was before the mass and after. We wondered what it was when we went in, and they were all praying the rosary. Ah. They were all coming in and they were kneeling down, they were praying, and it was a moving experience for us. And so being outside the church, we met a lot of the people that came and went from there. Yeah. And the chance encounters that we had in those instances where we met people who weren't Catholic, that were coming to this church to pray, people who were, but no longer, and just a really, really beautiful time there where we could give our experience. Yeah. Not to convert anyone, just to be there, to say that Christ has loved me like this. Yep. and they share their experience, and there's a real communion built.
Yeah.
It was, in that parish we stayed 2 nights.
Okay.
Because we didn't find accommodation the next night, we went back.
Yeah, well, that figures.
He was very open, and he said you can stay here the whole time.
Yeah. Well, it's exactly what the gospel says. This priest is doing what the gospel says. If there's a place that offers you accommodation, stay there.
Yeah.
It's like that. Yeah. It's completely in the providence wherever we get sent.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. Actually, you remind me a bit that with the you're talking about being in front of the Blessed Sacrament. That one of the things that really struck me that I take away is that in the Our Father it says, "Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive." It joins the forgiveness to the providence.
Yeah.
And it really struck me the other day with the gospel we had in the Mass, because why forgive? Because I see to myself, I have resentment against someone, it's because I have a fear they're going to hurt me.
Yeah.
Or why forgive because someone stole from me or something like this. But if God is my Father, He's going to provide everything. I have this bigger than multi-millionaire who provides for me. He's also going to provide, both riches and honour come from you, even the lacking of love that I feel when someone hurts you. So this idea to forgive is linked to the fact that God provides.
Yeah.
And so, it's been a big help for me. So you're discovering the same thing, that this forgiveness is linked to the providence.
Yeah. Yeah. And in this providence, in not having food or a place to sleep, not knowing, when the sun starts going down, if you're going to have a bed, it was in there that I really felt the love of God. And normally I'm just Steve. Yep. I have my struggles. I don't get along with a lot of people. Yep. but in these moments where we met all these people with their sufferings, with their joy, where they were at that time, really this providence that we felt, this love of God, spilled out, I guess, this cup that's overflowing, that really I was able to sit with them and to talk with them. Yeah. We went to visit a priest, for example, and he was no longer in the parish because he had retired.
Okay.
And so we somehow made our way to the retirement village, which was 20 kilometres away. And we sat with him and we talked with him for as long as he was able to. He was very unhealthy. Well, his health was poor. And while we were there, we thought, we don't know where we're going to go from here, but we're at a retirement village. We might as well stay with people and talk to them, and we went and asked the nurses that were there caring, said, is there anyone that could do with a visit? And she said, absolutely, pick a room. Okay. She said, this one or this one or this one. We met an elderly man there, and for me to spend 2 hours talking to an elderly man about his life, about this love that he had that didn't happen in the time, it was beautiful. And I felt this joy there and this freedom with my time that I'd never felt before, and that it was Christ coming with me. One of these examples was when we went to look for a priest in his parish, and the parish had been given to the Maronites, and the priest was no longer there. And we felt that we should visit him because he was on our list. We met this family and they drove us about 20 kilometres to the retirement home where he was. And we met him and we talked with him. It was beautiful because it was unexpected. He didn't have people visiting him that day, so it was good for us to be there, hear about his life. And then when we finished, we thought, well, we're here at a retirement home. We might as well see if we can visit more, because it's not as if we need to travel back to our hotel. So we asked the nurses there, and they basically said, pick a room. They said, you can go to any of these. And we walked into the closest one, and basically this elderly man, we spoke to him for 2 hours. Wow. And for me, that patience doesn't exist within Steve. It was a beautiful experience because he gave us his whole life. And we gave our experience as well. And he was a Catholic man. And it looked like it had been a while since anyone had visited him. And really it was beautiful for me, because that's not something I would do. And I could see that Christ really came with me, bringing this love that I don't have on my own. Wow, that's amazing. So, when we came back, our catechist asked us exactly what Christ does in the gospel. He says to the apostles when the times are getting tough towards the end of his ministry, and to prepare them for the passion, he says to them, when I sent you 2 by 2,
He says, when I sent you 2 by 2, did you lack anything? And they say, nothing. And for you, when you went there, did you lack anything?
Absolutely not.
And yet you were there, you a couple of days without food, you had no accommodation and all this. And in this time, what do you say?
I found out that those things weren't as important as I thought. The fears that I had at the start really were my lack of faith. And really in those moments when we came through the storm, when it was calm, we saw God's hand in that moment.
So when you risked, he entered.
Absolutely.
And helped you there, yeah. So for your life personally after this, because it's been a while now, what's the Lord saying to you, Steve, with this experience that he's given to you?
Well, one of the most concrete things that I took was the rosary. Really, it's something that I had never considered as heavily as I did. And the beautiful experience I had in adoration revealed it as this meditation and this communication that really, it has a power. But for me personally, I can see that my worries are really for nothing. I can see that God does provide. And that his plan brings me to joy, because that's absolutely what I left with.
Yeah, it gave you that perspective. So Steve, what do you do for a living?
I'm a service delivery manager for an IT managed services company.
Okay, so service delivery manager, IT company, very precise, everything is very organised, everything is planned before you touch anything, all risks are covered. And then you went and did this, completely risky, not knowing anything. Leaving your wife, breastfeeding with kids at home to go anywhere in the country, uncontactable, anything could have happened.
Absolutely. it was.
So why did you do this? Because there are not many people in the IT industry do this. So why did you do this?
Because I've been given a lot in my life. When I heard the announcement for this, that this mission was coming up, I wanted to stand up as soon as I heard it, because God has been faithful with me, and for me not to give 9 days of my time after a life of being looked after. The guys at work were a little bit shocked because they wondered what the time off was for. Normally the time off is only when my wife is having a child, and it had only been 6 months, so,
so they knew it was something else. It doesn't work,
but it was something that I wasn't ashamed of, because really it's something that has it's connected to the Gospels. This is what Jesus sent the apostles to do. So because of that, I had this foundation, I guess, that what we're doing is crazy, but there's a real value in it.
Yeah, it's crazy to us, but imagine that for God, he's wanted us to do this, because he put you to meet people that he wanted to reach, that he couldn't reach without you going. So who's crazy? Us who cover all the risks and live a life, or God who sends us to do this. The perspective is interesting. So when you got back, did the guys at work ask you?
They did. Yeah, actually, we had an afternoon on a Friday where I gave my experience to them.
And what did they say?
It's a diverse workplace, so there were very many different opinions, and it was beautiful, because I mean, if we're meant to be a light to people, then really I should be talking about this stuff. This was one of the first times I had spoken 100% honestly with the people at work.
And it's liberating to feel open and to say it, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and they're free to speak back and to argue and things too. Oh, good. So that's great because the mission doesn't just stop when we come back. It's off because this is a part of the life that continues on. Well, that's great. Thanks for coming and sharing your story with all of us, Steve, and letting people know how the Lord worked with you.
No worries. Thanks.
Now we heard the experience of Steve. This guy is just a typical Aussie bloke. He's got a wife, he's got 3 kids, and he's at that time of his life where he's just trying to make a living and trying to get ahead in the world. He leaves all that, and wasn't it impressive how he could come out of his own, selfishness or his own view of the world and go and sit and help these people in the hospital and talk to them and reach out to people beyond what he normally does. He's found a way to reach past his selfishness. Deep down, we're all a little bit selfish, really. We all look out for ourselves. But the incredible thing is that if God has come and entered into our life, then there's a generosity there. We can reach out to other people beyond our strength. So, peace be with you. Have a good night. Until next time when we hear someone else's experience. Bye for now.
A lot of talk in our church today about the new evangelisation, and we might ask, well, what's new about the new evangelisation? One thing that's new is that we're trying to renew the faith in people who should already be Catholic, should already be Christian. Individuals, families, communities, whole cultures that need to rediscover the gospel. And so what's new is that they're getting a new shot in the arm of faith, of evangelisation. But another thing that's new about it is the way that we do that. And the new media and groups like Shalom World TV are very important for bringing the gospel anew to our cultures, to our families, to each of us individually. And so I encourage all the viewers of Shalom World TV, and I encourage Shalom World TV themselves to keep up the good work, to keep watching this channel and to keep up the good work of presenting the Catholic faith to our world today.
Shalom World, God's own channel.